Hello happy crocheters, this is Lindsay from windingroadcrochet.com and today I'm going to show you how to make this infinity pocket scarf. If you like this tutorial, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. For this scarf, we're going to need 2 to 3 skeins of the Caron Cakes size 4 yarn. We'll need a yarn needle, we'll need a size I 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, and scissors. So let's jump right into this project. First, you're going to make a slip knot and insert your hook, and we are going to start by chaining 50. This is a tube scarf, so we are going to be making this in joined rounds. Once you have your 50 chain, make sure your chain is not twisted. We're going to bring the first and the last chain together and slip stitch them together. So after we create our slip stitch, we're ready to start row 1. For row 1, we are going to chain 1, and then we're going to work a half double crochet in every chain around. That will give us a total of 50 half double crochets. I'm going to work into my chain normally for the first stitch, and then from then on I'm going to try to work into the back bumps. This is optional if you are a new crocheter and you're not comfortable with this or you find this hard. Just work into the chain any way you'd like. The important part here is that we have 50 half double crochet when we're done with this row. Once you have your 50 half double crochet, you're just going to slip stitch to the very first half double crochet to join the end of our round. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn. This row we're going to be working half double crochet as well, but we're working them into the front middle bar, or this loop right here. So if you look at the top of your stitch, you see your back loop and your front loop. Then turn your stitch forward and you're going to see a bar in the middle of your stitch. We are going to go underneath this bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and complete our half double crochet. Again, going underneath this bar in the front of our work, yarn over, pull up a loop, and complete our half double crochet. That's going to turn the front and the back loop forward, giving this kind of knitted look on the front of our work. So you're going to continue working half double crochets in the front middle bar all the way around your work. Once you've worked all 50 half double crochets in that front middle bar, then all we need to do is slip stitch to the very first half double crochet. Now we are just going to repeat row 2 until we have a total of 38 rows. So we'll chain 1 and turn. Make sure you skip this slip stitch section. That's not a stitch, that is actually a slip stitch, and work into the first actual stitch. Half double crochet in each stitch around in the middle bar. And when you get all the way to the end, you want to make sure your last stitch is right at the base of this chain 1. So just repeat row 2, joining at the end of the row until you have 38 rows. So here's what it'll look like once you've completed 38 rows. It's this first section here before we start the opening of the pocket. I designed it to be this wide because I wanted to be able to place both of my hands in it with them just barely overlapping, but you can adjust the size of this if you like, making it shorter or longer. This is a very simple pattern and very easy to adjust. But let's go ahead and look at how we're going to make this pocket opening. So we are going to begin row 39 by chaining 1 and turning our work, and we are going to half double crochet in that middle bar for the first 13 stitches. So just like we've been doing for all the other rows. Once you've completed 13 stitches, now we are going to create our opening by chaining 24 chain. Once your chain is complete, go back to your work and you're going to count over 24 stitches because we are going to skip 24 stitches. And once you get to that 25th stitch, we are going to continue doing half double crochets in the front middle bar. We will work a total of 13 half double crochets on this side of our skipped portion or our pocket opening. And that should take us right back to the beginning of our row. When I make it to the end of my row, I just want to make sure my last stitch is right at the base of my turning chain. Into that middle bar, and then we'll end the row by slip stitching to the first half double crochet. Now we will begin our next row by chaining 1 and turning. We're going to work 13 half double crochets in the front middle bar. Once you reach your chain, you just want to work a half double crochet into every chain. You should have a total of 24 half double crochets worked into the chains. If it's hard for you to get into the chains, you could also work your 24 half double crochets around the chain. That would work just fine as well. But you just want to make sure you keep them nice and evenly spread out. When we reach the other side of the chain, we're going to continue by working 13 half double crochets into the middle bar to complete this row. You should still have a total of 50 half double crochets for every row. As I reach the end of the row, I'm just going to make sure I'm working into that half double crochet right at the base of our turning chain. And then I'll slip stitch to the very first half double crochet. So for the next row, we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to skip the slip stitch and work half double crochets into every stitch around, working into that middle bar on the front of our work. We are going to continue repeating this row until we have as many rows as you'd like. I worked 102 rows for my scarf. You want to make sure your scarf is long enough to go around your neck once and hang down low enough that you can put your hands comfortably in your pockets without tugging too much on the scarf. Remember, when you reach the end of every row, we are going to slip stitch to the very first half double crochet and then just continue repeating this row. So I've finished all the rows for my scarf, and you can see all the beautiful color changes from this cake yarn. I have fastened off, leaving a really long yarn end, and we are going to use this to sew up the end of our scarf. So I'm just going to thread this on a needle, and then I'll show you how to sew up the scarf so that we leave the second opening for our pocket. You will want to take your two ends and place them together and make sure that your scarf isn't twisted anywhere. You can see how we already have one pocket opening here. When we sew this together, this is going to be our second pocket opening. So what we're going to do is sew down 13 stitches and then sew up 13 stitches so that we still have 24 stitches open on the front for our hands to go into. So I'm just going to take my yarn ends, my starting and my end, and I'm going to knot these together so that I have a really secure join right here. And then I'm going to take my needle, and I am going to use something called the invisible stitch, but a whip stitch will work just fine here as well. I'm just going under one loop on this side and one loop on this side. This is also called a ladder stitch or a quilt stitch. I've learned it as the invisible stitch when I was in sewing class, so that's what I like to call it. But as I said, I'm going to go up 13 stitches on this side, so back down to my center seam, and then go up 13 stitches on the other side, and then go back down to the center seam, and I'll knot it with one of my yarn ends in the center, and then weave in my ends. And that will complete my scarf. So here's my completed seam. Again, I went 13 stitches one way, back to the center, 13 the other way, and back to the center. I'm just going to knot this with the other yarn end in the center. And then I'm going to weave in these two ends. So to weave in, you're just going under a few stitches. I want to go under one way, turn and go back the other, and then turn and come back the first way. You just want to zigzag it 2 to 3 times to make sure that that seam, that yarn is woven in nice and neat, and it won't come out during washing. So after going back and forth 3 times, I'll clip this yarn end, and then I will weave in the other yarn end, and you shouldn't have too many yarn ends to weave in for this project. So your scarf will be complete. So I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial and was able to follow along. I hope you like your new scarf, and thank you as always for watching.